how when we got first engaged, and we were talking about getting married, and people like, oh no, you can't get married, y'all too young. And
How long ago was that?
oh, that's almost 17 years ago. Gotcha. But it's just amazing, how I look back and I think to how, what God has done, in our lives. And I look back, going straight from high school to college, and, people was telling us, that we were too young, and, the different hardships that we had to go through. And it was just, amazing how, they were talking about us being unequally yoked. And I was like, well, what is unequally yoked? What exactly does that mean? I was like, well, he believes in God. I believe in God. I'm saved. Yeah, I know he's trying to live another lifestyle, what have you. But I was like, but we love each other. We both know who God is, so what is unequally yoked? And the more I, went on and I, saw what was going on. And then the scripture that, that I leaned on most of the time was, in the Bible where it talks about a sanctified wife makes a sanctified husband and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying, all right, Lord, I went into this with my eyes open, so I know what I was getting into. I was like, I'm just standing on your word, knowing that this is what you're going to do. And people used to look at me like I was crazy. I'd go to church and, I'd have a rock. And see, I got a rock. And you didn't know this. But I used to take a rock and I used to sit in the pew next to me. And they're like, oh, I was like, oh no, that's my husband. Like, man, that's a rock. I was like, no.
My name on it?
Well, I had a piece of paper. And I had my rock and it was taped to this paper. And on that paper, it's funny, it had the scripture about, a sanctified wife making a sanctified husband. And I had Torino. And that was all I had on it. And I would sit it there and somebody, I was like, oh no, you can't have that seat. That's my husband's seat. It was like, nobody's here. I was like, okay, and he's coming. I know he's coming. God told me he's coming. And when I look back, I just think, and I get excited about what God has done in our lives. Because, some days I didn't think it was coming, and it sure didn't feel like it was coming. But had to learn how to take a back seat. Because when you came in full force. You came in as that man of God, ready to take your place in your home. And, you always were a provider. You always provided. But it was different now. It was spiritual. I was no longer the spiritual forefront person. It was you. And I had to learn how to take a back seat and kind of allow you to take your God-given place. And that was hard. But I'm thankful and I'm grateful, that you kind of stepped in there and you're in there with me. We can fight this thing together.
Took a while, huh?
It did. But like I said, with it coming up on our anniversary, I was just thinking about that and just thinking how blessed we are. And that I know it was God that brought us this far. And without him, none of this ever would have taken place. You ever think about that?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when we first, like I said, right after we got out of high school, and we had when we moved in together.
Hell yeah.
And that's what everybody was talking. Well, you can't. I ain't supposed to be moving together. Just shacking up. So I think the hardest part for me, seeing that I wasn't saved and you was when you left and you was like, I gotta, be gone until we get married. And I'm like, huh? But you haven't been here for almost a year. So I think that was
wrench in your plan.
Yeah, that was the hardest part for me. I was like, well, I guess it's party time now,
Yeah. You did start partying.
Yeah. So, hard. But over time, still going to church, and that's why it's always good, even when other couples where the spouse or the husband, whichever one may be going, which one may not be going. It's still good that in the sense that other person still knows how to call on God on certain things, because God will open up the door, God will make a way and speak to that person. It may be over a time period, it don't just happen overnight. So, but after all these years, I'm happy.
I'm glad.
I love my wife. And fellas, I hope you love your wife too, you know what I'm saying? I've been with my wife Going on 16 years we've been married, you know what I'm saying? Hey, let's go.
My turnaround came in 2008, well, which I had already kind of started been going to church in, you know, back and forth for about 2 years.
I think it started with 2001.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, constantly, you know, after that. So, and basically just trying to be, you know, a better father to my child. You know, going to church as a family. Sometimes, you know, I didn't make it every Sunday. So, you know, at the same time, you know, the Lord was still dealing with me, and then I think it was right after Nala got born. Then that's when I started going to church more. Then right about midway in 2008, that's when I got saved. It was a struggle.
Fighting each other bad.
Yeah.
Not physically fighting, but I mean it was a spiritual. He was trying to get his life together, and I was like, whatever, I ain't studying. I don't want to hear it now. I ain't studying. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I've heard it too many times.
But then I actually started going to another church, and I was like, "You need to come to church. You need to come to church." But you didn't want to come to
church. I didn't tell me to go nowhere. I wasn't moving until you told me to move. You weren't saved yet. You weren't fully saved. You just started going to church.
Yeah, but I was going. Now I was up for you on Sunday night. But I think at that point, you know, it was, you know, the Lord was really, dealing with me, and you know, I don't let you do this for all these years now. Now it's time, you know, come back to me. It's time to step up, be a man, to be a real man of God. You know, I think for most couples, that's probably the hardest part for the other couple, the other spouse that's not saved, is in the point of, you know, when is it right time? I think for myself, I was kind of thinking well, I know God gonna provide. She's saved, so I'll be all right. I know she's praying for me, so I'm covered. I keep doing what I was doing.
I'm praying too.
You know, so. But after that, you know, everything went fine.
I'm glad she in my life. I love my wife. I thank God for my wife. I got kids cause of my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife. You see, I love my wife. See, I love my wife. I'm glad she in my life. I love my wife. I thank God for my wife. I got kids cause of my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife. You see, I love my wife.
For so many years in our marriage, I was the spiritual one. I was the one that was praying. I was the one that was fasting. You know, whether it was, you know, whatever it was, you know, I was that person. And I think when, you know, you finally decided, you know, to turn your life around and give your life to Christ, I had to learn how to take a backseat. I had to learn how to switch roles, so to say. And that wasn't easy. Because then I had to, you know, as the Bible said, you know, I had to follow you as you were following Christ. Because in the beginning you weren't following Christ, so I wasn't necessarily following you. You weren't the one, you know, that I was following. And so I had to learn how to redirect. I had to learn how to start listening to you spiritually and not so much as natural, and realize, okay, I have to be able to see him in the spiritual realm versus the natural realm. And it became it was a spiritual struggle. And in doing so, I had to catch my tongue, because I know for myself that I've got I know it's about talk about the tongue, and you never lied. It's strong. And I found myself having to come back and ask for forgiveness and apologize. And I think that was the hardest thing to do. I'm like, oh Lord, every time I turn around, I'm apologizing, I'm asking for forgiveness. And then, you know, the Lord began to show me, you know, it's a spiritual war. You know, Satan doesn't want him to take his place. He wants you to open up your mouth and start cutting him down. He wants you to start opening up your mouth and slicing him up, and making him feel less than, instead of using the gift that God gave me to push you forward. and to be the one to help uplift you, because it was at that point that you were coming in. Yes, you were the man, but it was my job at that time to uphold you and to be your armor bearer and to push you forward. And I was jealous in a way. I was excited and I was happy, but I was jealous and I was angry in a way, because I was like, I've been doing this for so long. I guess kind of looking at a way of a single parent, okay, you've been doing this by yourself for so long, and then all of a sudden you got some help, and you don't know how to let go and let them help. And I realized that, in doing so, that with my tongue, I was actually hindering your growth. Every time the Lord would do something, I could see it. But, like he says, that spiritual war, and he's going to say, we'll tell him this, we'll tell him that. It's like, whatever. Even this, even down to the point to our sexual life. Like you said, I was good at going to sleep. Yeah. If I wasn't asleep, I'd sure act like, I'm like, I ain't dealing with you tonight.
Just up at that window.
You'd be like, I ain't dealing with you tonight, leave me alone. And the Lord began to show me, you can't do that. You can't sustain. You can't, there's things that you can and things that you can't do. Right. And I realized that, and at one point I thought it was almost too late to that. I was like, all right, Lord, I see what you're showing me, because I'm hindering him. I'm stunting his growth. And I repented. I don't think I ever repented to you. I do apologize. But it was funny, because even now when I look back, and I just look back and I just thank God that he had us. And it's still, we still have our points or what have you, whereas I'm struggling with my mouth and my tongue. Yeah. But that was the hardest part for me, when you got saved. And I thank God that you saved me.
You're a happy woman now. He was always, been there as far as, raising the kids, and that's a good thing, because, some couples, when the man starts to doing good, and like in my situation, spending more time at the church, doing more things for God, I think the hardest part of that, well, why don't you take your kids? But, the Lord was speaking to you, so you was doing the right thing. You was doing the right thing, didn't hound me too much on that.
Some days I sure want to way down at that dog church so much. You need to come on.
But you've always been there for the the kids, and some wives don't do that. Some are just kind of neglect the kids. And the kids end up being the ones suffering. So good thing that you stay prayed up.
Prayer changes things. Prayer changes things.
Oh yes. And even as a wife, like I said, from the point of me getting saved, and then you working on your area, and at the same time me working on my area, but we were working together, and I think the most important part was just us being able to communicate more, because before we didn't communicate. So that, along with that, helped you out, with me with my communication.
And then when I think about you and the kids, I get excited, because I can think back to, when I found out I was first pregnant with Trey, and I wasn't going to tell you. Because you were at that point where you were getting ready to leave. Yeah. And I was going to help you pack your bags and go, and I had it all planned out, and I was going to tell you when you got there that you were going to be a father, and I was going to change the dress. I already had a new number, a new place to live, and everything else. And but God began to deal with me and tell me that I couldn't do that. And I'm glad that I listened, and I didn't get in self, because of that. We now have 3 beautiful kids that you are an excellent, father to. You've gone all during the week working, you work 12 plus hours a day, and when you get home, it's still like, you know, you have this bright light on your face when you see them, and they're so excited to see you, you know, you make time for them, you know, whether it's outside activities, if it's taking them places, even if it's just to go get ice cream. They know Mommy gonna say no. Mommy says no to everything. Daddy say yes. Mommy says no. But sometimes, you know, I'm like, whatever. But that excites me because I feel like you're giving them what you didn't have as a child, and I can say that you are that you know, that strong rock in their life that they need to be able to see a strong male figure, not only for our boys but also for our daughter, to show her, you know, what her husband is supposed to look like, you know, how he's supposed to treat her, as well as, you know, for our sons and how they're supposed to treat their wife.
Right.
And me myself, you know, I really get excited, you know, when I think about you as the provider of our home, in that, you know, you take whatever steps necessary to make sure that we all have what we need. And that just, you know, I'm sorry. But I thank God for that, because that's who you are. That's who your parents taught you to be. And you're instilling that in our kids, and you're doing the same thing for us. And I love you for that.
Love you too.
And I just thank God that, you know, we're not where we used to be. And I thank God for that, because there were some scary days. But you're an awesome man of God, you know, at home, in the church, in the community, you know, you're well known. And I just, you know, you learn how to manage that. Now, it's not so much as a whole bunch here and a whole bunch here, but you've learned how to manage that. And in putting God first, I think that's how we're able to manage every aspect of our life. And I thank God for you.
Appreciate it.
How was your day at work? Tell me all about it, and I will rob you where you were. Dinner's on the table, and I ran your water too. Just make your request, girl, and I'll try my best.